Hello everybody, welcome to something completely different to usual. I'm starting a new weekly news roundup kind of show. Of course, how you think it goes, you put down below and it will be if I actually continue doing this. I'm just going to round up the week and go through a couple of news stories that I think are important, some that I find less important but are still big enough to cover. And let's start off with one that is going to probably affect a lot of us. Elon buying Twitter. I know it's been a long time coming. The whole will they, won't they, kind of will they get sued, won't Elon get sued kind of thing. But he did actually go through with it in the end. There are clips of him bringing a sink to the head offices to let it sink in. Bad joke. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Elon, by the way. Just going to put it out there. So what's he done? He's fired a load of people and said that there's going to be a $8 a month subscription for the verified tick, which is bad. Right. The whole point was to stop impersonators, so you're talking to the person you think you're talking to. Why would making it a subscription make it any better, apart from if you're running low on money? I get it, it's his own, he's now brought it, he can do what he likes with it, he can make it huge, he can burn it to the ground. This seemed like a burn it to the ground move, to be honest. I can't see this going anywhere good, or anyone ever doing it. But yeah, it's not going to help. For example, on YouTube, a lot of the times in the comment sections, on big channels, there's a load of people pretending to be the person that uploaded the video. And a lot of the times, the way you can see that they're not the actual person is the check mark, because YouTube have the check mark as well. If you have over 100,000 subs, I believe it is, you get the check mark and get verified on YouTube, which has kind of helped if people know about it. A lot more people know about the Twitter check mark than the YouTube one. So it's a more reliable thing, even though the system itself on how to get verified sucks. It is a bad system. It's still better than it being a subscription, because now any scammer can pay $8 a month, become verified, and then pretend to be Mr. Beast, anyone. It's not going to end out well unless they also do work in the identification side of becoming verified. At the moment, it is really bad, and you can't just put a plaster of you have to pay on top of it. You have to do more work to make the ID verification better as well. And then, of course, this has gone down really bad with the community. For example, Marcus Brownlee has even said his number one rule that has not successfully been broken is to charge for something that has previously been free. For example, YouTube, they were going to put 4K behind a paywall, which is something that was free. Everyone threw a whole fuss about it, and now they went back on their word, because why not? They're just going to up the price of premium instead of putting it behind premium. They're just upping the family plan at the moment, a whole other thing. If you think that they're going to stop at just upping the family plan and not the individual price itself, just wait. That's a whole other kettle of fish. I'm not going to go into that. Or, instead of a subscription fee, you can just put ads on, which Elon has said that he's not going to put more ads on. This is the way around it. Although, if you've been on Twitter recently, just keep an eye out for the ads, because I've seen 3 to 4 posts and then an ad, which is a lot more than what it used to be. So, I'm not going to say you're a liar, Elon, but I'm not going to say that he's sticking to his guns on that. Just putting it out there. If you have any thoughts, put them down in the comment section below, and yeah, keep the conversation going. Beginning of this week, we had Halloween, which of course, there's 2 things that I want to talk about with that. One being bad, and one being different. So, of course, there was the Stampede that happened in South Korea. There was 100,000 people. And when you get to that amount of people in such a small area, any slight push at the back of a crowd can ripple and make real bad things happen. And the layout of Itaewon, where it took place, it's mainly big roads and then small alleyways. So where it gets to the alleyways, have you ever held your finger over the top of a hose pipe? When you squeeze the end of a hose pipe, there's more pressure builds up and stuff happens which you don't want to happen to people. So this has resulted in people in those choke points, bad phrasing, because they kind of got crushed to death. There's been 150 confirmed at the moment. Well, it's been a week. That's probably the final number. I'm not going to go through all the different types of death because some people suffocated, some people broken bones, which then caused other problems. It was a big disaster. And how could this have been avoided? It's all speculation. It's all in the past. It's something that's happened. Even though there were officers on the scene, there were nowhere near enough to do anything about it. Maybe next year they're saying about moving all the cars off the street to reduce the congestion and limiting how many people go into the area, that kind of thing is what they're talking about. I'm not going to go and do my own speculation. I'm not I'm not qualified to, but just my thoughts and prayers go out to the families. The following day after the event, there was a lot of people coming with flowers and mourning. The president put the whole country basically in a mourning period of like a week. It was a big thing. And yeah, just thoughts and prayers out to them. And now in more Halloween news, slightly lighter, sexier, and just a cover for research purposes of me looking up the video. Megan Fox disrespected Christianity by taking a sexy communion. And there is a video if you want to see it yourself for research purposes as well. I'm going to start by saying I'm atheist. I don't care for religion. But it always seems that Christianity is the one that comes under fire a lot. And is also joked upon, and it's kind of safe to take the piss out of. Because yes, on the Instagram post of this video, there were people being outraged and all that, but it's still got 3.4 million likes. People still didn't care. If it was any other religion, it would be universally hated. But because it's Christianity, it's pretty funny, I suppose. Oh look, she's wearing latex. And for a priest in the news, this is the lightest I've seen in a long time. At least give him that. There are also other celebrity pairs that have dressed up. For example, Billie Eilish and Jesse Rutherford dressed up as a baby and an old man because there's a big age gap between them, which is funny. It's funny. He's 31 and she is not able to drink yet in America. But apparently it's a funny thing to joke about, an age gap. It's fine. But Christianity, very dividing. Very dividing. And yeah, that's basically that section done. That's my Halloween news for now. Let's move on to some tech news, shall we? Let's move away from more real life stuff and get on to more techie. Slightly more techie. So earlier on in the week, there was a conference hosted by AMD for their RDNA3 announcement, and it went pretty well. It's gone down pretty well. There's a couple of points I want to touch on, and mainly it stabs at Nvidia and what the hell they're doing. So AMD have pulled back on the 12-volt power connector that has been catching fire for the 4090 cards because they didn't rush it out. Let's just say they had some testing happen by all the people buying 4090 cards. Granted, testing should have been done before then, but the fact that it catches fire just means that they're not going to use it. They're going to wait for the connectors to be better, and they'll just throw a cheap connector that breaks and puffs out with dead electronic smell. So yeah, that's one thing they did good, which Nvidia could have stopped, but and the next thing is that they've announced two cards and their pricings. So the 7900 XT and the 7900 XTX are $899 and $999 respectively, which is less Then the 6900 XT. They've released new cards that are both cheaper than the previous generation. Which Jensen, from Nvidia, the CEO, has said is impossible. How could they do that? When Jensen Huang says Moore's Law is dead, how could they possibly do that? Unless some people are trying to push up the price of their own cards. Maybe they don't reach the high performance that the 4090 does. They do. They are really, really close. So they are $600 less than the 4090, but yet are like 90 to 99% of the performance. I mean, at some point, Nvidia have to face facts and lower their costs, or find a way of making their cards cheaper. They're going to have to try and cut their costs somehow, and stop seeming to be the money grabbers that they are putting themselves out there to be. But yeah, Moore's Law is not dead. It's gonna carry on. If you don't know what Moore's Law is, I'll put a link down in the description below to a description on it. It's basically as time goes on, performance will carry on going up, and it's more. That's a simple version of it, but I'm feeling like my next graphics card may not be Nvidia. I've got a 3070 at the moment. I've always had Nvidia cards. I've swapped between AMD and Intel CPUs because over the last couple of years AMD have caught up, and I will probably be swapping over to AMD graphics card. I may have an all AMD build, the next one that I bit, my next main PC, and more people will be doing that because they are competitive. Well, more than competitive, they are the budget option and the price to performance option, and they are almost the high performance, the enthusiast option as well. They are almost covering all the ball, all areas, apart from I have too much money for sense. And that's the main bit of news in tech over the last week. Before that, there was AMD CPU releases and Intel CPU releases and Intel graphics card releases. Now there is a third party in this, but they are focusing on the lower end at the moment. And Nvidia, of course, the first card they release each generation is the high end because they want to get big money out of people. But that's not where most of the sales are for graphics card. Most of the sales are middle to low. So even then, they're not hitting the right area. But yeah, that was the main tech news this week. Now let's move over to streamer news, and it's gotten worse for Twitch. We've all seen the Adriana Chechik back-breaking story, and only this week did we find out that she was pregnant at the time. And because of the surgery, the baby had to be removed. How could it have gotten any worse? We thought it couldn't get any worse for the people involved, and then suddenly that news gets dropped. But she's back to streaming now, so hopefully she's always on the mend, and pain goes, and it's all back to normal as it can get. Just a small story there. Also, another small story. Ludwig's ballsack has been leaked. This is a small story, but I wanted to talk about it because Ludwig went on the Cold Ones. If you don't know the Cold Ones, it's a podcast where they drink. It's set in Australia, so there's a lot of heavy drinking that goes on. Ludwig got drunk, and from what I hear, it's a normal thing to do, but not when there's cameras around for him. He got his nutsack out, but it wasn't included in the YouTube cut. He was asked if he wanted it censored in the Patreon cut, to which he said, yeah, LOL, to which Chad thought was him saying he didn't want it censored. That's a little bit of mix-up. It could just be a language barrier, missed in translation and shit, there's stuff like that, but even then, it's behind a paywall. It's Patreon only. But the fact that someone leaked it on Twitter, it's
That's the real breach. Yes, they shouldn't have left it uncensored, but at least then it was still behind a paywall. Don't, if you were to leak anything, don't leak it on Twitter. Put it in a random forum somewhere. There you go. It's done. But don't leak it on Twitter. And final bit of streamer news is the Pokimane Backlash, where, again, of course, around Halloween, what did she dress? No, she said that she gave money to her parents. Why there's backlash is the main problem. There's no reason to have backlash for that. She just paid for her parents' retirement. There's been videos of people paying for cars for their granddad and stuff like that. So what? Yes, they're saying that they have money to spend, but it's the thought behind it. She paid for her parents' retirement because they sacrificed a lot for her. They immigrated over to America. They sacrificed a lot. And then on that post, she got messages like, "Did I ask? Get off Twitter. Get off the internet. Those replies are just the scum that can't let anybody have a good thing. It's really important for us to give back to our parents. If I was to ever make enough money, I would make sure they are comfortable before me. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to do what she's doing? But of course, let me know what you think, whether it's someone patting their own back or they're just trying to do a good deed to people that deserve it. Just put what you thought down below, and that's where I'm going to leave it on that story. If you liked this kind of format with me doing this, say down below if you liked it, or if there's any news stories that I missed that you think are really important, put them down there as well, and any comments about what you think about the stories that I picked. Think I'm wrong about some things, put it down there too. I will potentially see you next week, depending on how well this video goes. And yeah, see ya!